Hey there, and welcome back to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. I'm your host, Ben Brown, co-founder and CEO of BSL Nutrition. Today, I'm with my buddy, Dai Manuel. Dai is an award-winning digital thought leader, an author, executive performance coach, and certified lifestyle mentor who empowers people to lead a functionally fit life through education, encouragement, and community. Dai models his work based on 5 F's: fitness, family, finances, faith, with an overarching roof of fun, built on a rock-solid foundation of health. Dai is a super dad dating his wife, a founding partner and former COO of Fitness Town Incorporated, keynote speaker, professional blogger, spokesperson, and brand ambassador at DaiManuel.com, freelance writer, podcaster, CrossFit athlete, and coach, a BC Children's Hospital ambassador, and published author of the Whole Life Fitness Manifesto. I could go on and on and on and on. I guarantee that you find in this enlightening conversation that Dai is the epitome of health, of fitness, of passion, of purpose, and really very little of what we talk about is fitness and nutrition. It's more life, mindset, purpose, and just the daily struggle of being a fit, healthy dad with young kids. So join us over on the call. I guarantee you're going to find a lot of gems in this one. Dai, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Not much, Ben. How you doing, brother?
I'm great. I'm really happy and excited to have you on the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. So you got a bit of stuff going on in your life right now. A few things on things on your plate. So what's happening?
Well, you know, I guess it started a couple of years ago. My life definitely went a different direction. We like to think it was our life by design moment where we really just made a concerted effort to shift things. And without really knowing where we were going, you know, it's one of those kind of a blind faith moment. But I quit a career of 17 years. My wife quit hers about a month after. And then we pulled the kids out of school a few months after that. And we've been living out of suitcases for just over 2 years now. And our journey has taken us back to Bali. We lived there for 3 months last year, and we've now committed to going back for all of 2018. So we're I actually leave in less than a week. My whole family and I, we're off to Bali. So that's a bit of a transition, at least geographically speaking.
Well, that's amazing. And something all of us probably dream of or consider at some point in our life to some degree, but is it really realistic? Who knows? And
Absolutely.
So you made it happen. So how have you made that happen? Talk to me about, like, what was your career prior and what was the impetus? Like, what did you go through that, you know, contributed to just shifting gears like that? Because that's pretty significant, especially with kids.
Yeah, I know, right? And they're 12 and 14. And I mean, I know you know what it's like having kids, and every age is magical. But as they enter into teenage years, it's a different world entirely. But, you know, they're good kids. I have 2 girls. And so they're already used to our lifestyle. When I say our lifestyle, we've been pretty minimalist most of our lives. Like, I don't really have a lot of stuff, nor does my wife, and she has a passion to travel. But I got into a career mode, which was it started as a sales-focused position, which eventually led into me becoming a partner in a retail operation in Western Canada. So we specialize in fitness equipment solutions, as well as accessories, supplements, apparel, and we spanned Western Canada. And the company's still in existence, still in full operation. And we also did a lot of B2B and e-com coast to coast. So, after 17 years of being in that, I loved it. I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't my passion anymore. And I know people that are listening to this, and I know you can relate to this, Ben, like, you know, we do something for so long, and it is something that we start out with loving. And eventually it comes, you know, as we grow as people and as we expand our minds and expand our belief systems and really just start to strive to challenge and to grow, at least that was my experience. I was growing and growing and growing, and as was my wife and our relationships with friends and families, communities, and we just wanted more. And we wanted to travel. We wanted more time with each other. So I had written a book. I had been building, as my side hustle, so to speak, was building an online platform. And, at that around that 15, 16 year mark, my wife and I, which is, just to put this in perspective, context, this is like 4 years ago, we started looking at what we were manifesting and creating for ourselves in the online space, as well as the offline space, with all the initiatives we were doing outside of my traditional 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and we just had options. And we didn't have, like, obviously I have yet to replace my income, I was realizing back then, but my lifestyle, and for anybody that's listening to this, believe me, you might think I would love to do that, because I hear this all the time. I would love to do what you're doing, but I don't think I could ever do it. And I'm like, well, when you look at your current lifestyle, how it is now, yeah, it might be something, there might be a big gap, let's say, from where you are now to realizing something like this. And all we have to do is close the gap and figure out, how do we close that? How do we make it a realistic leap? And ultimately what we did was downsized our lifestyle. Got rid of a majority of our overhead. And so we didn't need to earn as much to literally sustain what we were doing and to keep going. And so, we've been figuring it out as we go. I don't have all the answers, Ben. I wish I did. You and I are part of an organization called Healthpreneurs, right? And we connect with guys like Yuri and other coaches, and we're striving to learn, to figure this thing out called life.
Yep.
So that's it, man. That's the journey.
Beauty. So, okay. So you're headed to Bali. So what's the allure about Bali specifically?
Well, not volcanoes, but it's, Bali's been on my hit list. I'm a big believer in vision boarding and really creating vivid visions or painting a picture, if you will, of where you want your life to go or what you want it to look like. And being of that mindset and of that practice, Bali has shown up on a number of my vision boards, yet I've never been. My wife's done extensive travel prior to us settling down together and having a family. She used to travel all over the place. She's been to Australia a number of times. In Australia, for those of us that live in North America, if you've ever been to Puerto Vallarta or Cancun, Bali would be the equivalent for the Australians as far as destination location for them to get away and have a bit of fun. So there's an area in Bali called Kuta, which is just prolific with a lot of Australians and a lot of Europeans, and they go there to vacation. And we're on the other side of the island in a more of a surf / expat community. An area called Seminyak, which is near Canggu, which is a lot of surf beach there and a lot of nice restaurants, really cool vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
And I love it. I love the lifestyle. It's a lot of first world amenities, but third world pricing.
Yeah, there you go.
And the people are just amazing. The culture is fantastic. And I found that my stress levels were down, and I was actually in my business started to really thrive while we were in that situation, because you become much more intentional with your time because of the time change.
Yeah.
And most of my client base and the people that I work with and the brands that I work with and et cetera, are all North American based. So, you got a 12 to 15 hour time swing from the East to the Western time zone. And so you only have a small window to connect with people. So you become very intentional with your time, very focused. And so we actually found our productivity went up.
That's cool. So you obviously have an online business, and your business is called Whole Life Manifesto.
Yeah, so my book is the Whole Life Fitness Manifesto, and it teaches people how to leverage 2% of every day, 30 minutes a day, to improve body, mind, and spirit. And it's the how-to manifest that for yourself. And we give them all the support. We have a free community, a free program online that people can participate in. But people ask me all the time, is that all I have to do? I'm like, no. It's the minimum you should be doing,
Right.
I want people to understand that this is the minimum, and I call it a gateway program. But obviously, I have my own personal platform, DaiManuel.com. I do a lot of writing, a lot of content generation, a lot of content contribution, and I do a lot of speaking, and I do all sorts of stuff, man. Like it's ridiculous. I also have a mastermind group I run for wellness entrepreneurs looking to expand their reach and impact more people, and so I help them do that. And so a lot of fun, just hey, man, I'm trying to make the world a better place.
Well, you're doing a good job of it, because I see you all over the place, literally. I mean, and now I'm looking, of course, when we start looking for something, then all of a sudden we're seeing it. But, I mean, I love how open and authentic you are through social media. It seems like, it just seems like you and your family are always like just having such a good time, and you're really leading by example. Maybe could you talk a little bit about how you've kind of integrated everything that you preach into your lifestyle, and kind of how your kids respond to that. And you just, I think a lot of us struggle with kind of taking what we do during the day and bringing it home at night, and maybe teaching the kids the foundational beliefs that we have that maybe we're trying to serve other people with, but maybe not being authentic with those at home. How have you really brought all of that together?
Well, I guess the first thing anybody should do is start a journey of introspection. You start asking yourself questions, and they're the big questions that you just can't answer, like this, like a snap of your fingers. It's the questions that really lead to that why, right? You hear Anthony Robbins, you hear Simon Sinek, you hear all these very motivational speakers and quite frankly, thought leaders, in their spaces. And they're always talking about this emotional connection to a life of purpose, right? And when I ask somebody, well, why do you do what you do? There's always a bit of a struggle, right? Like we connect that to an emotional part of our being, and unless you really get clarity on that, it's you feel like you're sort of tripping over things along the way. You're sort of fumbling. You don't feel. Some people refer to it as a flow state, right? You get into this sort of groove where you just feel like everything's just trucking along and it's moving smoothly. And I found in my life, there's been periods where I felt that, but it wasn't sustained. And when we started looking at our lives and looking at what we were doing and the way we were living life and raising our kids and interacting with communities, we started to look at the things that we really enjoyed, and we looked at the things that we didn't really enjoy. And we're like, well, how do we do more of the things that we enjoy? And how do we share that experience with others? Because we're like I'm a trainer, I'm a fitness trainer, like A certified, CrossFit certified. I got all these silly certifications, but I'm a bit of a certification junkie. It doesn't mean I'm qualified, but
you and me both.
But I'm also a pro coach with Precision Nutrition and then a life coach. So I look at this mind, body, spirit connection of well-being, right? And that's why the Whole Life Fitness Manifesto came to be. And really, I try to paint a picture for people. What are the non-negotiables in your life, as an example, Ben? Like, what are things that you are not willing to deviate from, that you believe to be true, and they're like an integral part of who you are? Like, do you know what a few of those things are?
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, certainly having a certain amount of family time every day. I think for me, I get some of and I've talked about this before, but I get some of the most pleasure about cooking for my family. That's
Cool.
One of the ways I show love for people I care about is cooking for them. Spending time cooking is something I really enjoy, but also making sure that I'm feeding them, healthy food. And then we're taking time to sit down and eat together. And of course, my fitness is something that I just enjoy, that I will always have as part of my life. And then, I mean, it's certain, education so just off the bat, I mean, that's great.
Like, those came to you like that, right? Like, you were able to say, these are the most, these are some of my primary pillars, if you will, in my life, and I'm very similar. Like, I have family as one. It's a non-negotiable. My fitness is another one. It's a direct extension for me to improve my overall health, manage stress. I recognize the correlation of fitness and how it plays into that, and the other pillars of my life, how it affects my family dynamics, etc. And then I've also got faith. And when I say faith, I'm not talking about a denominational faith. I mean, if that's what your belief structure is, I support that. I'll always support that. But when we refer to faith in our family, we're talking about the universe, right? And when I'm saying that, I mean, there's immense capacity in every single person's life to make an impact on this planet and with the people that they meet, whether directly or with these online vehicles that are prolific in the world today. There's an opportunity to leave a footprint, a positive one. And so that is what we're talking about when we refer to faith in our structure. And then there's finances. We do live in a global economy where we're required to create an income to support the things that matter most to us. And for me, when it comes to finances, it's really a means to continue to do what I do, which is ultimately impact people in a positive way, to really realize that they can create any life they want if they just take a second to reflect and really figure out, what are your pillars? What are non-negotiables? What are things that will remain true on the day you're on your deathbed? You can look back and say, you know what? I stuck to my guns on these things. I made them a priority, and I got no regrets, man. Now, if you can say that, you've lived an integral life to you, right? And because again, and this goes down to accountability, right? We all set these lofty goals and these dreams and these ambitions, but if we don't share these, we don't make it known to people this is what we want to achieve, who's to hold us accountable to that, right? Like who it's easy to let ourselves off the hook. Right. But there's a certain amount of integrity and accountability that one has to have with oneself to truly make a shift long-term and sustainable. And so those are some of my pillars, you know, and so when you ask me about, you know, this content creation and us doing what we do, well, we want to impact and influence people, but by leading by example. You know, you know how it is, especially with little kids, right? But it's really easy. Remember when your kids are really, really young, it's like, don't do this. You know, don't, no. Like there's all these like ways that, you know, you can't do that. You know, like it's do more of this, do less of that. Like, and you know, as early trainers, I remember being like that, you know, eat this, don't eat that. Yes. You know, do this kind of reps, don't do that. You know, like we get very dogmatic about our belief system, right? We just feel that is the way or it's the highway. And, what we have to realize is everyone's different. You know, we all are different. We all have different ways of learning. We have different ways of communicating and adapting to each one to help them thrive in whatever mode they operate in. That's what we strive to do. So we realize, you know, there's too many different people out there. All we can do is be the best versions of us, share our journey. And if people want to engage with us, we're going to be there to support them to do the same thing. Yeah. And that's it. So we have a rule of showing, not telling when it comes to social.
Beautiful. So what are ways that you support your community? How do you implement your coaching and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it really, I try to meet people where they're at. You know, like it's, you know how it goes, man. You have someone that reaches out to you to maybe formulate a new program for them or to coach them in some new endeavor that they've set their sights on. And you know, whether they want to summit some mountain, well, you got to get at a certain level of conditioning to help them do that. And I find that it doesn't matter what area of your life, whether it be a physical endeavor or a spiritual endeavor or an emotional endeavor, there's a certain amount of conditioning that has to come into play. And so we'd like to meet people where they're at. And so we have a few different entry points for people. We have a free program, you know, the Whole Life Fitness Manifesto. It's very accessible. People can pick up the book. They can do it on their own, or they can join our private community online to get that accountability, that group support. Again, it's free. It's just there to give people a vehicle to say, no more excuses. I can start something now, and I'm going to have a community to support me. And then we have something that's a little bit higher, which involves a bit more coaching, a bit more involvement, a bit more time commitment for the participants, which is our RBT Shred, Release, Build, and Tone 6-week program. And lots of resources, a lot of coaching with that one. Again, we leverage a private Facebook community for accountability every 6 weeks. And so it's $199, so $200 for 6 weeks of coaching. Great value. And I tell people, like, if you want to hire me for a one-on-one personal training session, you'll spend more than $200. So it's like, this is your way to get access to me and my teachings without having to invest too heavily, you know? And then we have a really high-end program, which when I say high-end, I just mean it's high-end because we expect a lot of the people that come into it. You know, it's 12 weeks of custom fitness, custom nutrition, as well as life coaching. And it's like full-on immersive. This is for people that aren't afraid to say, okay, enough's enough. I'm ready to make a change, but I need some support to make it happen. Yeah. And it's great, but we actually turn away more people than those that apply. We'll refer them to the other two programs before we'll take them in because it is a commitment. But those that are ready to make a change, man, the transformations are incredible. You know, good for you. You know what I like about what you're doing is all of it revolves around community. And, you know, we've established how important community is in affecting change in people. And so what have you seen throughout your communities in the way that it contributes towards people just improving in all areas of health? Yeah, well, it's the stories, right? I think we all love a good story, you know, like look, there's a new Star Wars movie out right now, like and it's like instant, like massive success, right? As much as some of the people are criticizing, oh, it's not like my Star Wars that I remember, it's still a great story, you know. Right. And we love story, but we also have to recognize we're all the heroes in our own stories. But along our storylines, we tend to meet people that influence us, people that help us. You know, we sometimes call them mentors. We call them coaches. You know, we call them teachers, parents. You know, but these people play an influence in our lives, and sometimes it's positive, sometimes not so positive. You know, what I find is we try to cultivate a community of positive interaction. Like it's really one of the only conditions. When people join our free community, we ask them 3 questions. And one of the 3 questions is, are you prepared to fully support your community? Fully support the tribe. And if they don't answer yes to that, we don't let them in. It's like one of my coaching questions, like, do you believe in coaching or accountability? If they say no, I'm like, well, I can't work with you.
Right.
Bottom line, it's like the survey, the application process ends right then and there. It's like, here's my free copy of my book, and thanks, but read this first and then come back. Yeah. And so I love community. And are you familiar with Dan Buttner? Have you heard of him? Yeah, the Blue Zones.
The Blue Zones, yeah, sure.
Well, remember, like when you're looking at those 9 common themes that he discovered in these areas where people are living to be, they're not just 100-year-old people waiting to die. Okay, these are 100-year-old people.
Yeah.
Dude, they are. They're thriving. Yeah. And but one of the key pieces in there is a sense of belonging, right?
Exactly.
And a really tight sense of belonging. And when I say sense of belonging, like that why that I was talking a second ago, they have a really strong sense of purpose. But most importantly, they have a community that they thrive within, that they feel like they're contributing to. And also that community respects them, interacts with them, and they work together. And learn from those people, right? Their success leaves clues, as the quote says, and we just got to look for them, right?
Yeah, oftentimes it's a lot more significant than just what we're doing in the gym or what we're putting in our mouth. It's the having that sense of belonging and community that's so powerful.
You bet. It's been, it's one of my, I love it, right? Because then you have the people that make those shifts, and all of a sudden they've gone from this idea that I really ought to do this, I should be doing this, I have to do this, to all of a sudden I want to do this. Right. I get to do this. I love doing this, and they in turn become coaches of those that are new, just coming into the program, just coming into this new lifestyle and this new way of thinking, because it's very intimidating, right? Like, we all have set habits and set behaviors, and changing some of these can be very traumatic. When I say that, it's just because it makes us feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And we're not willing to work through that state of uncomfortableness to get it on the other side and realize, wow, as uncomfortable as it made me feel, man, I feel way better now, And it's nice to have a community to support you through those growing pains, as I like to say.
Yeah, for sure. You obviously have so much wisdom around all of these components and why you put together your book, The Whole Life Manifesto. What are there any specific struggles that you encountered along the way that have helped shape you into the coach that you are and the mentor and the speaker that you are today?
Well, it's not a short answer, but I will paraphrase. And I've had a lot of roadblocks. And when I say roadblocks, some of them are ones I put up myself, and I kept putting up. And I believe that these objectives were, as they say, it's making a molehill out of an anthill, right? Like this idea of we encounter something that pushes back on us and we decide to collapse and submit to it rather than looking for solutions or ways around it. And so that, early on, I was morbidly obese as a teenager. Up until the age of 14, I was classified as morbidly obese, and realized, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I'm in my 40s now, and back then when that diagnosis came down, which was pretty easy to say the diagnosis, because you could just look at me and it was like, okay, well, there you go. But childhood and obesity weren't actually a term yet. Finding those two in the same sentence alone was an oxymoron. I remember there's me and one other kid in my entire school that was in that state of unhealth. So I was definitely a minority. Meanwhile, physically, I was a majority. And I had all of the usual issues that came along with that state, not only the physical complications, but especially emotional complications, psychological complications that were more related to self-esteem and that lack thereof, and just lack of confidence in general. And I made a change because I got to a point where I was like, the pain of not making a change was far greater than the pain of change itself. And so I literally, okay, and this is funny when I tell my kids this story, because, and you'll appreciate this, because you can remember libraries. And even though they're around still, they're just not like they used to be. And I remember going to the library, getting out books on fitness. I remember getting an Arnold Schwarzenegger book. I remember getting an old Joe Weider book, Ben Weider book, some old fitness guru type stuff. And just started reading about nutrition. And lo and behold, after about 20 months of moving my body with purpose, eating and fueling more effectively, based on really, I just created a better relationship with food, and I lost majority of the weight, and I also gained a lot of lean mass, and I haven't looked back since, and that's what got me excited about coaching other people through that kind of transformative experience. And but hey, man, life isn't without its complications, because then you move forward in life. I then developed a tendency to, which it's been 8 years since I've had a drink, so let's just put it that way. And I believe in living an addiction-free life, and I don't believe in this idea of addiction, at least not the one that's mainstream. I do recognize that behavioral change takes effort, takes concerted effort, takes support. And what happened with me was it became a crutch. It was just a really easy thing to get that, at the end of the day, to have a half to a full bottle of wine. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter whether I was drinking by myself or I was drinking with my family. Like it just became this way of dealing with stress in my life. And I realized it wasn't serving me, wasn't serving my family. And I was living out of integrity, in a position where I didn't feel like I was living with integrity to the person I wanted to be. And I'll leave it with this, because there's other stories, but I won't go into all of them. But this one thing, and for those that are listening, if you deal with anything along those lines, whether you're overweight, dealing with some health complications where you're just like lost, not sure what to do. Same with if you're battling with abusive substances. Like the question that my wife asked me one day, and this is I share this openly, and you can read about it on my blog. If you just go to my blog and type in addiction-free life, you'll see a series of articles and videos that I talk about this. And she literally asked me, she looks me in the eyes, Ben, and she goes, "Are you being the type of man that you would want to marry your daughters?" I got, it was like she gave me a virtual kick in the, like I was, or a punch right in the nose, like it was, a very sobering experience, pardon the pun, but it was that moment where I realized, my goodness, I'm not being the man I want to be, right. And it was a hard realization, a really hard realization. But at that moment I said, enough's enough. And I stopped, and I haven't touched a drop since. And my life's completely different. And it's amazing how much has happened in just 8 years, like just crazy. But when you open yourself up to the opportunity, the world is there to help us. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm. That's great, man. That's super powerful. And I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure so many of us listening can resonate with that, especially us dads.
Oh,
and
man.
I mean, I got 2 young daughters, they're 8 and 6, and it's always about just trying to be the best role model we can be. Yes. And am I being the best dad and representing, men the best that I can be. And so, on that note, how have the girls responded to sort of this nomad lifestyle, if you will, for maybe lack of a better term?
No, that's a great term. Like it's been interesting. Let's say that, the homeschooling or road schooling is probably more appropriate, just based on our school. We haven't had a home, so it's not really like we're homeschooling, but we're on the road. There's for anybody that's considering this, even if taking an extended leave from maybe a career to just travel for a year, and we've met families like that. There are a lot of support networks out there, and literally private Facebook groups that you can join, communities of world travelers, of parents on the move, or even just people that are embracing this nomadic lifestyle and looking to make a go at it. When I say a go at it, sustain it. And you have to change sort of how you think. And with kids, especially my eldest daughter, she's very social. And when I say social, she loves school, the traditional way of the school. So for her, it was more of not having that structure, which challenged her. And we still work with that. So we're actually looking at some schools in Bali to get her enrolled in so she can get her fix. My youngest, though, she's self-directed, and she's actually thrived in this new way of learning versus what she was doing in school before. So she's advanced in her main subjects, which has been great, because in school, and I don't want to turn this into one of those kind of a conversations, but you have young kids right now, and as they move into school, and as you see how schools work, the school system, unfortunately, it's the kids in the middle that suffer the most.
Sure.
Those that need the extra attention typically get it. Those that are not needing any attention, they're fine because they're on autopilot. The teacher gives them stuff to do and they just work. But the kids in the middle that really, they don't know what to do, there's not enough support for them. And
Sure.
my one daughter, Bree, my youngest, she was suffering in some basic skills, and now she thrives in them. So I can't speak more highly about the opportunity to homeschool or road school my kids. It's been quite the learning, but I'm more so the phys ed teacher.
Totally.
Okay,
So
guys, today's
so here's today's lesson: burpees.
The beach.
So listen, yeah. So with respect to teaching them about health and fitness,
Yeah.
is it just? I mean, imagine it's all just lead by example, but what do you see in your kids because of you leading by example all of these years compared to maybe other families or kids that don't have necessarily an appreciation for nutrition and fitness like you've implemented?
Well, think about it this way, Ben. Like your daughters, they look at you, you're the hero. You are their superhero. You are their Superman, And why wouldn't you want to remain that way for your entire life? And we all are. We want to be that superhero to our kids. And they look at us like that. And they just want time. They want attention. They want to know that there's someone there to care for them and unconditionally. So we try to foster that as best we can. And hey, we have our family battles as well, which is, you're just going to have. They happen. But we fight fast, but we make up faster. That's sort of a motto or a mantra that we preach as a family to each other, is we might get upset at each other, but we just make sure we make up a little bit sooner and we don't go to bed angry, So, with my kids, we support them, if they want to try something, we support them. We give them the opportunities to explore their own physicality, right? Especially when it comes to sport and fitness. If they have a desire to try something, we want to support that. We want to, and they've tried lots of stuff and they've been like, no, I don't like that. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad I didn't sign you up for a whole season of it.
Right, totally.
It can get pretty pricey when you start looking at all these extracurriculars, and especially if it's not something that they want to do. And my eldest daughter, she has an autoimmune disease, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And we're very optimistic that she'll grow out of it. But, when it's found in kids of her age, she was diagnosed a few years ago and she's now 14. And we're doing our best to really control the symptoms, right? Keep inflammation down as best we can. And that way her ankles, her knees, and her wrists don't hurt her as much. But it's definitely limited what she can do from certain, but she's fit, she's fit because she takes after her mom. Her mom's slender. Like you met Christy, she's slender and always been active, and so our kids are active because we're active. They do what we do. And we go for a hike, we all go for a hike, and we try to have fun. We create fun opportunities to move our bodies. And with my youngest Bree, she's just any way to move her body, she's all over it. So, but they definitely, they learn from us. And that's why I opened it up. You are the superhero. You have every opportunity to influence them just by you being who you are. And if what you're doing is something that you would love to be emulated by them, they will, because they do. They follow our suit, right? They follow us. They do what we do. And so you have to ask yourself, if my kids aren't getting activity and if they're not eating very well, you have to look in the mirror and say, well, are we doing that?
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right about that. And that's gold right there. It sounds like, man, we got to hang out. It sounds like our families would get along really well. Yeah. So I hope you guys have a guest house.
We do, man. It's hilarious. We made sure that we had a separate bungalow with our villa so we could just host people. So it's we have a bunch of people. We're blacking out weeks right now for people.
Totally. I imagine. That's
I'm
good.
serious, man. You want to come. It's open invite. It's right here. You recorded it. Now it's legit.
I'll do my best. That really would be something amazing. Real quick. So just touch on your book, The Whole Life Manifesto, and
Mm.
kind of, you had mentioned a 2% kind
Yeah.
of solution, and you know, you said mind, body, spirit.
Mhm.
What is some of the components that you go into?
Well, I like to make things simple, because the simpler it is, the easier it becomes for people to implement and take action. I want to, no matter who I meet, I'm like, listen, can you give me 30 minutes a day for 28 days? Can you give me 30 minutes? Just 30 minutes of your day, 2% of every 24 hours, I want you to give to me. Now, it's not really giving it to me. It's really giving it to yourself, right? You're prioritizing your health, and you need to pay yourself first. These are the 30 minutes a day that really should be going towards your self maintenance and self improvement. Level up, man, level up.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so the program is 15 minutes of movement with purpose, and it's body weight movements only. And it's HIIT style training, so it's high intensity interval training. 15 minutes. I try to encourage people to do it in a fasted state first thing in the morning, as best they can, because I know if you get it done first thing in the morning before you do your day, it's going to not only make your day that much better, but it's also, you're going to make sure you get it in. And then we follow that up with 5 minutes of mindful meditation, followed by 10 minutes of personal development. And so not only are we feeding the body, we're also feeding the spirit, but we're also feeding the mind. And it's done 30 minutes every day, every morning. It's ritual, right? And if they can stay that for 28 days, I'm confident those small little changes will turn into big changes, because you are creating a new lifestyle. And we find it takes people 2 or 3 cycles through that 28 days. So within a month, for those of you that are business people and entrepreneurs, give yourself a quarter. Okay. If
Yeah.
in 1 quarter you could literally change your entire life, would you not be prepared to make that commitment? I find most people are, but it takes a concerted effort. It
Sure.
doesn't just happen overnight. It's a gradual change. Darren Hardy talks about the compound effect, right? And it's true. It can work negatively against us, or it can work positively for us. We all like compound interest. Why? It's money making us money.
Mhm.
It's interest paying us interest, and it's amazing how you can take some savings, and over time it grows, right?
Yep.
But so too, if you have a couple extra drinks a day, or a couple, say you're someone that likes to drink pop, well, 1 extra can of pop a day above and beyond what your body needs, a year later you're looking back saying, whoa, what's this extra 10 pounds I'm carrying?
Yep.
Well, it's that 1 pop a day.
Yep. That's great, man. Totally
Yeah.
speaking the same language. I mean, that's why the show's called the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. It's like, I'm with you, because I've been in the industry for 15 years,
Yeah.
and at first it's like we think we know everything, and we're
Mm-hmm.
very dogmatic, and it's like
Oh
it's
man.
my way or the highway, and you eat this, don't eat this,
Yeah.
structure, and it just doesn't work for most people.
You're right.
And then you live and you learn and you experience, and we develop empathy
Mm-hmm.
so that we can uh, acknowledge what our friends and clients are going through, and cater to real life. And so I love all of the components that you're sharing. um,
Awesome.
and so with that, Dai, where can people find out more about you?
Well, I think probably the easiest way is just to find me on social, or go to my website, which is just my name. So it's
Yeah.
daimanuel.com, and that's DAIMANUEL.com. And from there, you can get all sorts of resources. I've been blogging there, like writing there for over 10 years now. And so there's a lot of content. The site's going through a redesign, so it will be a bit more navigation friendly as we move in later into this year. So definitely subscribe to get updates. And there's a bunch of free resources there too. Like I even got a brand new guide I just put out. So if you go to whyyourkidsmakeyoufat.com,
Mm,
it really just
yes.
plays on this whole idea. Man, the amount of excuses I hear from people all the time, especially parents, they're indirectly blaming their kids for why they're fat.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy, right? Like it's crazy. I'm just like, so I've made light of it, but I've also given a free solution that people can apply to life now to start changing that outlook. And again, it's all about taking action. So I think that's probably the easiest way for people to get a hold of me. Otherwise, go to join WLFM if you want to sign up for our free program. It's simple. The next one starts about a month from now. We just started another one, but every 28 days we start a new cycle. So just opt in and away we go.
Awesome, man. So we will, for all of you listening, of course, we'll have all of those links and resources in the show notes. Make sure you head over and check out Dai's awesomeness through his speaking videos and other related content. He obviously has a heck of a lot of it and is a very wise man with a lot of passion and love to share. So, dude, good luck with your journey. And I will really look forward to following you and learning from you and sharing everything that you continue to offer to make the world a better place. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Ben. And appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and your listeners and your tribe because, man, you're changing the world, one mouthful at a time. So that is immense. And I applaud you for that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate it, brother. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Dai Manuel. Make sure to check out the show notes over at bslnutrition.com/episode 36. And make sure to subscribe and leave a review in iTunes so that we can help more people make smart nutrition simple.